Alright, Sean Payton, you're on the intro again. The Denver Broncos have hired former Saints head coach, Sean Payton, baby. We're holding. What the hell is pimento cheese? Tom Brady has announced his retirement from the NFL. For real this time. Come on, kick the field goal, take the points. Win the game.
Oh, you have to say that.
See you later. Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to Ruffing the Passer, the show that talks football, miscellaneous stuff, and mostly football. I am your host, Sam Ruffing, and this is episode 86. And I am lying here in my zero-gravity chair, just chilling, because after 8 long, agonizing, painful years, the Denver Broncos have finally upset the Kansas City Chiefs and ended a 16-game losing streak. It's been almost 3,000, I think it has been 3,000 days since the Broncos beat the Kansas City Chiefs last. And so, for this special occasion, I will just sit here and relax. Broncos country, let's vibe. The game started out very, very interestingly. For one thing, Taylor Swift did not show up. So that was already heading towards the Broncos' favor, because in games where Taylor Swift does not show up for the Chiefs, they are 2-1. That means there is a loss in there, and there is a chance that they will win. Beyond that, Patrick Mahomes is coming into this game with the apparent flu. I think this was just an excuse made by the media because they knew something was up with the Chiefs. They were coming into this game taking a little too lightly. After curb stomping the LA Chargers last week and beating the Broncos the week before. But I digress. And even leading up to the game, something just felt different. The Broncos beat the Packers the week prior in what was a mostly terrible game, but a game that ended the streak, some very long streaks for the Broncos. One, they scored 16 points. They were at 16 points at one point in that game. But then the Broncos moved past that. Unlike many prior games, they didn't just stay at 16. They kicked a field goal to take the lead and ended up with 19. I mean, how many Broncos games have you watched where they end up at 16 and they just stop and they lose by 1? Too many. Even more so than that, the Denver Broncos, in that Packers game, ended a 10-game streak where they were maintaining a halftime lead. So the Broncos have a halftime lead, they lose. The Broncos had a halftime lead against the Packers, and they actually won for the first time in 10 games. Coming off of that, they're now facing Kansas City in Denver. They're supposed to be the first snow game of the year in the NFL, and there was snow the day of the game, but there wasn't snow during the game, so technically it doesn't count. But that's different. And also, I don't know, there's just something. I can't describe it, it's just a feeling that the Broncos are going to do something different in this game. Like, they weren't going to let Kansas City roll over them. And they didn't in the game. First drive, the Chiefs go 3 and out. Rarely happens against the Broncos. They punt it. Marvin Mims gets a big kick return, and Russell Wilson and the Broncos lead a touchdown drive with a pass to Javonte Williams for a score. After that, Chiefs get a field goal. Then the Broncos force a turnover on the Chiefs. They go right back down the field again and score to Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, the man who's been on the trade block, who's been criticized by everyone, including myself. Steve Smith Sr. He scores a touchdown. And it was a little tense, I'm not gonna lie. Broncos were getting plenty of opportunities from the Chiefs. The Chiefs had 3 turnovers in the first half, and the Broncos only managed 14 points. The Chiefs, meanwhile, got, 9 points, including a field goal right before halftime off of a Russell Wilson strip sack, which for most Broncos teams just means the end of the game because, one mistake, it's over. But that streak ended of the Broncos having one bad play and blowing it ended. They took it right down the field to start the half, and yes, their kick was blocked, but they actually got them a field goal chance. And then more beyond that, they held the Chiefs again and again with the worst defense in the league, stuffing Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Stuff that has not been seen in ages in Denver. Not since the Peyton Manning era. And to cap it all off of a Kansas City muff punt, Russell Wilson finds Cortland Sutton in the back of the end zone to put them up 21-9. And from there, it was pretty much over. The Broncos finally beat the Kansas City Chiefs for the first time in 16 games, almost a normal regular season. What would have been a regular season for any other team in the past 3 seasons. I should say, actually, no, it's just what the regular season used to be. And finally, it's over. And I shall eat this waffle. It's alright. But one thing I noticed during the game, what really changed for the Broncos offense, was something we all thought the Broncos offense was going to look like throughout the entire season. An efficient Russell Wilson, doesn't throw for a lot of yards, but throws a few touchdowns, keeps turnovers to a minimum, and a run game. And this is the biggest component to this win against Kansas City, was that run game. Javonte Williams, a man who I have been begging to get more carries, finally got his due and had carried the ball 27 times for 84 yards or so, keeping Kansas City from maintaining the ball, running the clock down, making safe plays because they're not throwing it through the air all the time. And even though Russ only threw for 119 yards, he had 3 touchdowns, was efficient, only 1 turnover. What we all thought the Broncos offense was going to look like at the start of the season. Not letting Russ cook. Let Russ do what I'm doing now and just relax, hand the ball off, occasionally lob a touchdown in the end zone. That's what we all thought the season's going to be, but they came out slinging Russ, throwing deep bombs, not running the ball, and the defense being terrible. But not this game. The Kansas City Chiefs game. The Broncos changed something. They fought hard. They ran the ball. They were physical. They took down an opponent. They maintained a halftime lead, had a turnover, and didn't completely fall apart. Finally, something has looked different in Denver. For the first time since Gary Kubiak was coaching the sidelines. It's refreshing, it's wonderful. And from here, what was once a disastrous 1-5 start, the Broncos could turn around and go places. Like Toyota. I mean, after this next game, which is a bye week, the Broncos have Buffalo. They have to face Buffalo after this bye week, which, I mean, if you're going to face any team after a bye week, at least it's Buffalo. At least you get another week to prepare for them and, have a chance to exploit them because, you just exploited the Chiefs. If you can figure out how to exploit Buffalo and get a free win there, that'd be huge for this team. 4-5, heading into a Sunday night game against Minnesota. You can get a win there. The Broncos then have Cleveland after that, get a win there. Then it's Houston. Then it's the Chargers. The Broncos could potentially go on a 5-game winning streak. I don't think it's going to happen, but they could potentially go on a 5-game winning streak. And what was once a disastrous start could be a playoff caliber team. Which is crazy to say after these first 6 weeks, because they did not look like a playoff caliber team. At all. Whatsoever. But the Broncos finally ran the ball 20 plus times with one running back, and they looked like the Broncos offense we thought they were going to be. Not letting Russ cook too much. Not making Russ win the games for you. Just run the ball, have Russ do what he needs to do, and play some defense. And credit to Vance Joseph, that defense looks good now. All right? I was definitely, and rightfully, criticizing him. I was very harsh on him, but it was rightfully so. I mean, you allow 70 points to the Dolphins. But kudos to Vance Joseph and the team for sticking with it and eventually figuring it out. And if they maintain this smash mouth football, this play action Russ, this low turnovers, defense, only have Russ do what he needs to do when you need him, not forcing him to do it every week, this team could be a sneaky playoff contender and get to that 10-7 mark I predicted them to be at the start of the year. Truly an amazing win. Hopefully they can build off of it and become a playoff contender. But even more beyond that, they just finally beat the Chiefs. And that is worth celebrating. It feels good. I remember that last time they beat the Chiefs. The Peyton Manning touchdown to Emmanuel Sanders to tie the game. And the Jamal Charles fumble to seal it. If only that could have lasted. But hey. Looks like things are finally turning around in Denver. So I'm happy. Alright, back on to normal news. Yep, good. Beyond the Broncos beating the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend, it is the NFL trade deadline today. Around 4 o'clock is the last time the teams will be able to trade players until March 14th next season. That's a long time. And moves have been made. The Minnesota Vikings have indeed traded a 6th-round pick to the Cardinals for starting quarterback Joshua Dobbs and a 7th-round pick. This is a fantastic move for the Minnesota Vikings, who sadly lost Kirk Cousins for the season with an Achilles injury. Just absolutely brutal. This waffle's for you, Kirk. And you know what? I really do like this move. For one thing, Joshua Dobbs has been playing surprisingly well this season in Arizona. Sure, he only has 1 win, but the Arizona Cardinals were a team no one expected to be good at all. So, 1 win's not terrible. He has 10 touchdowns to 8 interceptions? I don't know. No, 8 touchdowns to 5 interceptions, so not great passing stats, but not horrendous passing stats. And this is all coming with the fact that Joshua Dobbs arrived in Arizona like a week before their opening game and was thrust into the starting lineup, and he's actually looked pretty good. So, I don't think that this was necessarily a bad move for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, it's a 6th-round pick to get him in a 7th. What's a 6th-round pick going to become? Watch it become someone great. But, I mean, it's a 6th-round pick. You can, if he works, great. I mean, you're paying him nothing. You don't have to worry about, winning too many games. And you're paying them nothing. It's not like he's going to take over Kirk Cousins' job, most likely. Doesn't make Kirk Cousins mad. And maybe, who knows, he can become great. If not, oh well. You just tank the rest of the season, get a high draft pick, draft an lineman, a defender, I don't know, another wide receiver, maybe even a quarterback if you want to replace Kirk Cousins. So it's a win-win for Minnesota. I really like this move. Another interesting move was made by the Chicago Bears, who have traded for Washington defender Montez Sweat who has 6.5 sacks this season. They traded a second-round pick and another later pick to acquire him. Again, a good move because the Bears have, ample draft picks next season. They have the Panthers' first-round pick. They have a high first-round pick again with their own terrible team. And just getting Montez Sweat for a rebuilding team. He's still young. I mean, obviously you have to pay him, but either you're going to keep Justin Fields and not pay him, or draft a quarterback and not pay him. So it's not really a big deal. He's a good pass rusher. Team needed to help that defense. I really like this move. Yeah. There's probably one other move that I'm completely forgetting because it's not very relevant. But that is the NFL trading deadline as far as I'm aware. There's probably more that I don't know about. That is a salty waffle. Probably the butter. But it tastes good. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. They lost their third straight game to the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday, 31-17. It has been a horrendous losing streak for the San Francisco 49ers ever since acquiring Randy Gregory from the Denver Broncos, which was clearly the problem for both the Broncos and 49ers. We all thought it was Nathaniel Hackett. We all thought it was Russell Wilson. Turns out it's Randy Gregory because when the Broncos signed Randy Gregory, they went 6-17 with Randy Gregory, which is terrible. So they traded him to the San Francisco 49ers, and since then the 49ers have gone 0-3. And suddenly everything's fallen apart. So clearly it was not Russ, it was not Nathaniel Hackett, it was Randy Gregory that's the problem. Joking aside, the 49ers have looked terrible. The defense has suddenly become, Swiss cheese. Just holes everywhere. Just for quarterbacks to toss. Perfect dimes, too. Brock Purdy has looked awful. I mean, he's thrown 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions the last 3 games after throwing, no interceptions until the Cleveland game. That's not good. And now they have a bye week where they have to prepare for some tough matchups ahead, including Philadelphia. They're now second in the division to the Seattle Seahawks. And if Brock Purdy ain't it, it's not looking good for the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, during that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, he had some just awful interceptions. One was on a scramble where he just threw it right to the Bengals defender. Then the next drive, he gets the ball. He throws it again to the Bengals defender. Just right to him in the middle of the field on the first play. And you know what? The fact that the 49ers don't have a solid backup plan for Brock Purdy to say he doesn't do well is 100% completely on Kyle Shanahan. This man had Jimmy Garoppolo way back when, winning games for him, in 70% of his games, making a Super Bowl, putting him on the cusp of destroying the Kansas City Chiefs, and then they draft a new quarterback to replace him in Trey Lance, trading 3 first-round picks. Fine, you wanted a quarterback who had more talent, you won your own Mahomes, so you don't have a limited offense, then you only start him 5 times. And I know it was an unfortunate situation with Trey Lance getting injured and losing his starting job to Jimmy Garoppolo again, then having Jimmy Garoppolo losing his starting job to Brock Purdy, but it's not like the 49ers had to trade Trey Lance after that. I mean, you could have kept him on this roster just in case Brock Purdy was terrible like he is now. You could have kept Jimmy Garoppolo around maybe. I don't know. Just saying. I know Trey Lance hasn't looked good when he started. He's been up and down. But he's only started 5 games. He was a very raw quarterback coming out of North Dakota State. You could have put him in to sit behind Brock Purdy and given him one more chance because Brock Purdy has looked terrible so far. And you never know. Maybe he would have stepped up. Maybe he would have been humbled and become Trey area. But no, you traded him. to the Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. Who the heck's that 4th-round pick going to become? You signed Sam Darnold as your backup. If this season does not go well for Brock Purdy, it ain't going to go well for Sam Darnold. Like, looking back, that Trey Lance move moving him was such a terrible idea for the 49ers front office, and it could very well blow up in their face if Brock Purdy is not it. So keep a watch for that. Moving on to a surprise quarterback from the past weekend, Will Levis started for the Tennessee Titans against the Atlanta Falcons. Well, actually didn't start. More like Malik Willis started, then got hurt, and Will Levis came in. And in his first game as an NFL quarterback, he threw not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdown passes in his debut. No interceptions, no fumbles. He looked comfortable out there. He looked like he was reading the defense as well. And he was just slicing and dicing. Like, accurate pass here, slightly mobile. Big guy, strong arm, chucking it deep. And he actually did what no Titans quarterback has done this season that has helped his team hugely. He threw to DeAndre Hopkins, and guess what? It worked. I'm shocked. Huh? Isn't that interesting? What's also interesting is, isn't it funny that Will Levis played well, even though everyone said, oh, his preseason form looked terrible. He threw a bad interception in his first preseason game, therefore he's going to be terrible. Yeah, he threw a preseason interception on his final drive trying to win the game. He needed a touchdown to win the game. I'm going to excuse the interception. But everyone saw it and was like, oh, I don't know. They saw him posting, having his massive guns, and they were a little concerned about that. They didn't believe in him. They thought the mayonnaise and coffee was weird. They didn't believe in the power of mayonnaise and coffee. And Will Levis proved them all wrong. He went out there with his 4.0 GPA, with his strong arm, and he just sliced and diced the defense. Read it perfectly. No mistakes. 4 touchdowns against the Falcons, who have a really good defense. It ain't like you're going out there against the Houston Texans. It's not like he's going out there against the Indianapolis Colts. It was the Atlanta Falcons who have a really good defense, and he sliced and diced them for 4 touchdowns in his rookie debut. He's a smart guy. As I said, 4.0 GPA in college. He made a lot of starts, so he looked prepared. You know who else had a 4.0 GPA in college? Justin Herbert. And everyone was concerned about him coming out of college because, he was a little raw, but then he came in his first game, starting unexpectedly against Patrick Mahomes and almost won. But you know what Will Levis did that Justin Herbert didn't do? He closed out the game and won. Everyone's talking about, he looked bad in preseason. Oh, his practice wasn't great. He's the 3rd-string quarterback. Even Will Levis's girlfriend from the draft left him. The one who stole the show at the draft. Left him before the season. She didn't believe in him. They didn't believe in his mayonnaise coffee power. And they didn't believe in him eating a banana with the peel on. But all that has helped him. With being drafted in the 2nd round when he's a projected 1st-round pick, to motivate himself to become a great NFL starter. At least for 1 game. And you know what? I'm just probably just going to say it now. You know what? I think Will Levis is going to become a good quarterback. He did not make a single mistake in that rookie debut. I mean, granted, it helped having DeAndre Hopkins get open all the time, but Ryan Tannehill's probably had DeAndre Hopkins. Malik Willis has had DeAndre Hopkins. None of them looked as good as that this entire season. Malik Willis looked terrible against the Falcons in his limited play. So give Will Levis his credit. He's earned it. And some other quarterback who deserves more credit is Zach Wilson of the New York Jets. You know what? The Jets, after losing Aaron Rodgers in Game 1, are now 4-3 to start the season. Yet another winning record. Beating teams like Buffalo, almost beating Kansas City, beating Philadelphia, Denver, And now the crosstown rivals in the New York Giants. Now, granted, the Giants didn't have a quarterback because Tyrod Taylor got hurt. They didn't have Darren Waller because he got hurt. But even still, everyone's talking about, oh, the great defense. Robert Saleh is a motivating head coach. But no one, absolutely no one, is giving Zach Wilson near enough credit. They're always like, well, he plays terribly. Well, guess what? He may play terribly, but his terrible play has never been as bad this season as the quarterbacks he's faced. In his starts or games, he's outplayed Josh Allen. He's outplayed Patrick Mahomes. Literally, he was the first person to outplay Mahomes in every major statistical category since high school. All those quarterbacks, and Zach Wilson was the only one to do it. That's pretty damn impressive. He outplayed Russell Wilson, kind of. He outplayed Tyrod Taylor and Tyson and whoever, Danny DeVito, I don't know, whoever the Giants guy was. And he outplayed Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. And I know people want to say give all the credit to defense, and you can. But you still need a quarterback with a defense as good as that to get you in a position to win. I mean, look at the Broncos last season. They had a great defense, but when the offense needed to make plays and we needed the quarterback to make plays to get, the team a win, it just didn't happen. Give some credit to Zach Wilson. He's gone out there and he has won. In his since dating back to last season, he is now, if you don't include the Aaron Rodgers game, 8-7 in his last 15 starts. If you want to include the Aaron Rodgers game, then he's now 9-7. It's a winning record. It's a winning season of football. And everyone's like, oh, his stats are terrible. Yeah, you know whose other stats are terrible? Sam Darnold. Yet all the media did was defend him for seasons. Seasons. Oh, Sam Darnold just doesn't have the help. Oh, I don't know. Zach Wilson's going out there with Nathaniel Hackett as his OC. With a defensive head coach. With Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, who are good weapons, and a terrible O-line. And he's winning games with basically the same stats as Sam Darnold. The only difference, he can actually win games unlike Sam Darnold. But no one gives him any credit because he's slightly spunky, because he actually has some confidence. Give Zach Wilson his due, damn it. Anyway, let's get on to the NFL schedule predictions. I don't remember what I am in my last 4 weeks because, I'll put it up on the screen. Week 9 NFL predictions starts now. Steelers at Titans. Titans at Steelers, whatever. I have the Steelers beating the Titans. Dolphins at Chiefs in Munich, Germany. I have the Dolphins and Tyreek Hill running all over the Chiefs. Vikings at Falcons. I have the Falcons beating the Vikings. Seahawks at Ravens. I have the Seahawks beating the Ravens. What the heck? Browns hosting the Cardinals. I have the Cardinals winning. Interesting. Rams at Packers. I have the Rams beating the Packers. Don't know if that'll happen. Buccaneers at Texans. I have the Buccaneers beating the Texans. Commanders at Patriots. I have the Patriots beating the Commanders. Bears at Saints. I have the Bears beating the Saints. Colts at Panthers. I have the Colts winning over the Panthers. Giants at Raiders. I have the Raiders beating the Giants. Cowboys at Eagles. I have the Eagles beating the Cowboys. Bills at Bengals. Ooh! That's going to be a good game. I have the Bills getting the revenge on the Bengals. Chargers at Dolphins. Chargers at Jets, excuse me. I have the Jets beating the Chargers. And that should do it for this week's episode. Let me know how happy you are about the Broncos beating the Chiefs in the comments below. I thank you very much for watching. It has been a fun episode. Have a happy Halloween. And in case anyone was wondering what my Halloween costume is, I am Chef Russ. And with that I say, please subscribe. And I will see you later.